as a founder, it must be hard to separate yourself from the business. It's a lifestyle. It's not a job that you go and do. And as you evolve through the business from driving around to do your samples to taking on a partner to selling majority control, maybe you can give us some thoughts and help our audience understand what mindset you need to evolve as you go through that journey.
Yeah, I mean, we all start off. Every entrepreneur starts off as a one-man band and a control freak. I know I did, and you learn very quickly that if you don't multiply yourself by having great people around you and being able to delegate stuff and so forth, that you're just going to bury yourself, right? So very quickly, my goal was if I could find someone that could do what I was doing, like 80% or better than I could do it, and it was not hard to find that, then I would give that up. And I went on this quest to actually figure out how can I be completely out of day-to-day. Now, it took me 10 years, but I was pretty much out of day-to-day over that period of time by really developing good people, giving them the autonomy, ensuring that they really wanted it, made sure they were aligned, monetarily and through ownership and everything like that. And I just methodically kept pushing stuff off to people who wanted it and were able to show that they were really good at those things. You mentioned the book E-Myth. That's a great book for any aspiring entrepreneur to read about how to think about, working on your business, not in it. And people talk about it, but it really is the secret to duplicating yourself, replicating yourself many times over, and also give you a better life. Like if you're in the weeds all the time, putting out fires all the time, like in the early days, and you're doing it forever, that's just gonna wear on you. And also you can't do high level work, right? I always think, what are the things that only I can do? And what percentage of the time am I spending on things that only I can do? And it's never enough. And the more that it is, the more value I create for my company.
No, I think you hit it right on the button. I tell my manager, okay, right now, building a business is like a warfare. You have to think mentality. I like the chess analogy to always position your piece. Where are you going? How do you see a competitor? Where are you going? And so I tell my manager, you're in the trench right now. You're fighting the battle in the trench. You have to go to the mountain. You have to see what's going on with the market and tell people what to do. And there is a plateau. It's about 10 million in sales. That entrepreneur who don't give away the leverage, they're going to plateau at 10. If they want to macro manage every part of their business, that's 10 million. You're going to be stuck at 10 million forever because you want to be involved in every decision. And so once you're able to say, okay, for me, the big thing was giving my veggie dog recipe for somebody to do it because you're afraid, you're paranoid. What if she sells it? Then you realize it's what you have is the distribution, is the marketing, is the brand. It's not a recipe. Yes, the recipe is important, but it's much more than that. So, and for me, talk about entrepreneur, but my name was on the business. My son texted me a picture this week and he says, "You're making canned beans?" I said, well, the business that I sold now is selling canned bean. But, I think it's part of growing up. And, the best analogy I have is probably, my daughter is 23. And I said, when you sell a business, it feels a little bit the same way when your kid gets married, your daughter gets married, She is not with you anymore. Hopefully she has a new life and she's happy. And that's the way I look at it, because you don't want to keep your daughter for the rest of your life in your home because there's other problem with that. But, I think that's the way I look at it. And I say, I had a great life with her and now she has her own life. And the business is the same way. And hopefully he find a good suitor and she has a happy life. And I look at Yves right now and I'm not necessarily happy with some way the brand is going, but it's not mine anymore. So I can't judge what they do with it, but it is what it is, but you have to learn to differentiate yourself. What you have created is not you, you've created something and it's now has a life on its own.
That's very good advice. Did it change after private equity for you guys in terms of that, the governance, the dialogue between your new partners, and maybe share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, for us, not tremendously, because we didn't sell majority; we sold minority.
Right.
I wouldn't sell majority, so we controlled the company. I also picked good partners where we're very aligned, so we didn't have a lot of issues there. We also performed and hit every budget pretty much, so everyone's happy.
Yeah.
But the key things are, like any good relationship, so we over communicate. When there are problems, we go to our partners and say, hey, this is what's going on. I'm very transparent about everything. We look at them as partners, not as like, oh, we have to report to them.
Right.
And so I think it's the way that you look at it and the way that you value that relationship that makes the difference. So we had actually a very good relationship. They were very helpful in the areas that they had a lot of experience in. And in other areas, though we listened to everything they said, we didn't necessarily have to follow it because we felt we knew our own product, our own distribution, our own marketing better than anybody could tell us. So we listened to their best practices, but we did what we felt was best. When it came to getting ready to sell the business, though, we listened with ears wide open here because they'd sold many businesses for great outcomes. And then we said, we want to benefit from that learning. And I learned a ton about that that I wouldn't have known because I'd never done it before. So I think just picking those right things, it was actually a very good experience for me.
So I would highly recommend when it's a marriage.
Yeah.
So you check with other brand that they sold before to say, how was the marriage? And so for us, I think they brought good process in place. So we function with a proper board of director, proper minute, etc. So I think private equity is good for that, to bring button down process.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, I've heard nightmare of private equity too, that they control, they want to change them. They want to run the business.
Right.
And well, they should have not invest if they want to run.
Go start
the
their
business.
own.
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe that's good advice for companies that are at that stage, is that alignment, that fit, those conversations around what's the business going to look like after you invest are fair conversations to have because it affects the whole organization.
Yeah, and don't sell majority, because if you do, you will have to do what they say.
Right.
Yeah, and it's interesting because when we were in the process of selling the business, I had set up a nice chunk for my staff. I said, if I benefit, and then I thought it was natural that they would participate in it, and they said, no, that's yours. And I said, what? But what comes around, it's a different story. What comes around goes around too. So they lost somewhere else. But it was like, that's a conversation to have early on.
Yes, absolutely.
If everybody win, everybody should win, not just you. So it's about partnership, about communication, and so
That's great.
It's a marriage.
it is.